On today's podcast, I had the clever investor Cody Sperber on. Now, Cody is a real estate investor who's done thousands of transactions. He's been in the game for over 20 years now, both doing the deals and teaching many people how to do it. And he's somebody that I consider a mentor, not just in real estate, but in business in general. He's been doing some of the things that I've started doing recently way longer than me. But really, the big focus on this podcast was on thinking bigger and how you can go about that. Him and I recently attended a conference with Grant Cardone where we both came away with like, man, we can both think a lot bigger. But we went really in depth on that idea of what thinking bigger looks like and how you can apply it to your life today and the type of people that you're gonna have to be around in order to take your life to the next level and think bigger. So with all that being said, this is a great interview. Make sure you stay to the end. Now, let's jump in it.
Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest,
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
innovate,
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
and inspire.
I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I have got somebody who has been in the real estate industry for a very long time. I'm sure you guys have seen this guy's ads. And in fact, this guy has helped me out a lot with ads and just understanding how to run an education company. I've got none other than the clever investor himself, Cody Sperber. What's up, man?
Dude, glad to be here. The famous studio.
I know.
We're here.
We're live.
It's real.
We're actually not live, but
You're like the biggest content producing machine I've ever seen.
that's what we try to do out here, man. That's
Yeah,
what we
it's
try
good.
to do.
It's good. Changing lives too. Impacting a lot of people.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So tell people, dude, who don't know who you are, man.
Sexiest investor in the game. Recently, bigger muscles.
Yeah, you're getting big.
I know. So working hard on it. Health.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I turned 44 this year, and I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
It's weird how that, like each decade, I'm like, this is the best decade ever. But my 40s, like, I'm just on fire. Health.
What are you doing different?
I take this needle of testosterone and I stab it. A lot of things, actually. You know, 75 hard was a big game changer for me, just mental clarity. And it's not really a fitness thing for me because I've always been like working out and like having trainers and stuff. But it was more just the strongest routine you can ever create for yourself for 75 days straight. If you guys do not know Andy Frisella, highly recommend you check him out. Great podcast, but he created something called 75 Hard. I've done it 3 or 4 times now, and every time it gets you in this like God mode. I can't explain it. You about day 30, you fall into like a pocket where you're on because you're reading, you're drinking water, you got this really consistent double workout thing, one outside, one inside. And that habit, that health habit bleeds out into everything else you do in life. When I don't do my routines, and I'm big on morning routines, very strong morning routines, very strong evening routines. When I don't do them, I'm like at like 75, 80% the rest of the day. I do them no matter how tired I am or how much I don't want to do it. The second I force myself to do it, the rest of my day I'm on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was a big part of it. Eating right.
Yep.
I don't eat a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But yeah, people that don't know me, real estate 18 years, wife, 2 kids, out of Arizona, done thousands of transactions, every type of deal under the sun. Got really lucky because I was in Arizona, which is like one of the hotbeds for creative real estate. Lots of creative real estate going on there.
Yep.
The market is perfect for it. It was the area is flat. It's a 1 mile by 1 mile square grid.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the rules and the laws were very pro real estate, pro investor. Like there was no hurdles. And so a lot of people were doing it there. And in 2003, one of my friends flipped a house and made $80,000. He wholesaled a house.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, $80,000's an abnormally large
Yeah.
wholesale fee. It was for his first one. I mean, but can you imagine? He was going to school to be a software engineer, and all of a sudden he's driving a brand new Mercedes that he paid cash for, off of one deal.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is like insane because I had never heard of wholesaling. I actually, when he told me, I said, this has got to be illegal.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way this is real. So that kind of piqued my interest into the game. And then Back then there was no courses, no Ryan podcast. There was no YouTube channel where I can go down your rabbit hole and like learn everything. So a lot of it was just books, tapes, courses, infomercial gurus flying into town. You would read actually in the back of newspapers, believe it or not, when we got newspapers. And this is, the iPhone has not come out yet. Social media had not come out yet. So I was flying all over the country on my credit card. I was going to college at the time because I had just came out of the Navy and I was going to college to get a degree in finance. And so I would fly all over the country and meet up with these gurus that were putting on these seminars, and they loved me. I bought everything. I was like the dude with his credit card in his hand because grew up really, really like lower middle class, like I not super poor, but we never had extra money ever.
Right.
And so it was just one of those things like dreaming big about like, wow, I can make 80 grand. That's more than my dad makes.
Right.
You know, like that's insane. So I had a lot of hope. The challenge is when you're first starting this business, especially back then, I was getting massive information overload because I bought too many courses. There is a point where you need to get out of education.
Right.
And it's actually kind of quick. Because if you want to learn wholesaling, but now they're talking to you about creative finance, and at the same time, they're talking to you about self-directed Roths and tax-free environments. At the same time, they're talking to you about rehabbing and owning cash flow. It's like, oh my God, it's like this fire hose effect. And so I had all these courses, and I would lay them out on the table. And the challenge with that is like I would take them too literal because I'm a very analytical person by nature.
Right.
And so I would read page one thinking page one led to page two, to page three, to page four. The problem is real estate doesn't string like that.
Right.
Because personalities are involved. Big money's involved. All of a sudden it's like, you know, the deal's not linear. And I thought it should be. And I also was very naive in the beginning.
Right.
I was too nice.
Yeah.
Like as you've evolved as an entrepreneur, like you've gotten this internal compass because people have screwed you over, pushed you around, sidelined you, screwed you over somehow, and you lost these opportunities or these deals. And you didn't get like a compass over time, like knowing like how to navigate those relationships?
Yeah, I think for me, I've become, I don't want to say like more cutthroat, but just more like, yo, like this is business. This is how, like, you know, I used to be very like, oh, you know, like it's not a big deal. We'll figure it out. And then you just realize like over and over again, you got to be super strict of like, this is what it is. This is what the contract says.
Yeah.
This is what you agreed to.
It's boundaries.
Yeah.
There's boundaries. You got to have boundaries, and you got to have thick skin in this business. And so anytime there's big money, there's big personalities, big maneuvers, and you just have to be very nimble in this business, but you have to, you know, be tough and have these boundaries. And so after losing a gazillion opportunities, you finally toughen up. And so it took me 9 months trying to get a deal. I did not get a deal for 9 months. I ended up quitting the business. I went and got a job as a bookkeeper. That lasted 4 months before I was miserable doing that. And then eventually I actually smartened up and I got back in the game. I hired my first mentor.
Right.
And that was the game changer for me personally, because when you have somebody that locks arms with you, that really truly pours into you. And he showed me things you can't learn in books.
Right.
And that was the game changer for me, because in real time, he was course correcting me. And that made me finally get to my first deal.
Right.
2 months later, $40,000 deal, game changer.
Right.
And that was my first wholesale transaction. It's funny because the distance between deal 0 and deal 1, 9 months, quit for 4, back in it for another 2. So that's what is that, 14, 15 months? Over a year. Imagine being so energetic in the beginning. Like you're dreaming so big. I was so broke. I had nothing. But all the hope in the world, all this young, youthful energy, all dreaming big. 1 month, you're telling everybody, I'm going to be a real estate millionaire. Month 2, it's going to happen. I promise. I'm almost there. Month 3, I think I got a deal. And then, oh shit, it fell apart. And month 4, your friends are starting to make a little fun of you. By month 6, your girlfriend's like, I don't know about this. Like you should put out like resumes, like maybe get a real job. And then by month 7, your parents are sitting you down. They say, you're making a mistake. This is wrong. Like stick to college, stay focused. Real estate's for rich people. All of those things that we hear when we're trying to get the business started. By month 9, that voice in your head is so freaking loud that it's like, it's so depressing and overwhelming. And all it took was one more failed deal for me to quit.
Right.
Like one more almost at the finish line, then you quit.
Yeah.
And I could have stayed there. I could have been there. And a lot of people do. So many people buy a course and think they're going to get rich.
Right.
Pay for mentoring and think they're going to be successful because they cut a check. That's not it. You have to go through all of those things to strengthen up and build the skills and capabilities and create the network, get the mentor back in the game. And once you do that first deal, the distance between deals 0 and 1 and 1 and 2, it shortens. And then deal 2 and 3, it shortens. And all of a sudden you start to realize I was in the way.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. I was blaming the realtor and the title person and the cutthroat other wholesaler.
Right.
And I realized it was me.
Right.
And once my mindset shifted and I started thinking about the money game and starting to play to win, it was like, oh my God, I overcomplicated it.
Yeah.
And then I started going faster. And like all the evolution of all creative real estate investors, you sell a deal to somebody one day and you make 10 grand and they go sell it, flip it and make 150. And you're like, what just happened there? You're like, I should have done that,
Yeah.
but I was too scared to do it. Or I had blinders on.
Right.
I just want to be a good wholesaler.
Yeah.
Okay. Wholesaling is the hardest game in the world
Yep.
in creative real estate. It's the hardest. It also is the worst type of money to earn, but it's the fastest type of money to earn.
Mm-hmm.
So my mentor just kept saying, you're stupid. Stop wholesaling. Start owning. You got to shift over to owning real estate. And he kept pushing me like, do it in your self-directed Roth or do it in a tax-free environment or figure out how to win the money game, because you cannot save your way to wealth. You can't earn your way to wealth. You have to invest your way to wealth or entrepreneur your way to wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand that at the beginning.
Yeah. No, I think what's crazy, I mean, obviously you talked about a lot there, but what stood out to me, I was just looking at your arms because you're getting a lot bigger too, but you were getting goosebumps telling that story.
Yeah.
You know, because that was you. And I think there's so many people watching and listening to this right now that are in the same boat that you were in, right? They are trying to do this. They're watching podcasts. They're doing this stuff. Their spouse might be doubting them. Their friends might be doubting them. They're not having a lot of success. I've experienced that same thing, right? You know, any business I've started, a lot of people have been like, are you sure you want to do that? You know, are you sure you want to go start making videos and TikToks? Are you sure you want to flip couches? You sure you're going to max out your credit cards to flip your first house? But at the end of the day, you know, you're always going to have people who doubt you. And how far you can rise above those doubts is going to dictate where your life ends up going. And I think for you, obviously you had perseverance. You got through all the trials. You were smart enough to go get a mentor. You were smart enough to actually listen to him too and say, hey, you know what, even though I've kind of got through the first step of like, let's wholesale a house and make some money, you know, immediately he's like, you got to do more. There's more to this game than just being a wholesaler. And that's one thing I've always made clear for people at Future Flipper or for anybody that's asked about advice. I'm like, you are not a wholesaler. You are not a house flipper. You are not an Airbnb guy. You're just a real estate investor. You do whatever is best for the deal and for you at that particular time.
Yeah. And when they shift to start thinking like that, that's when they'll be able to scale.
Yeah.
You know, that's the scaling thing. And look, there's so much noise in the world right now. And so many people are giving opinions or hating on you. Most people fall into that trap of allowing other people to steer their ship. And the first step is, and when young people are like, hey, what advice would you give yourself if you were younger? I just say, trust yourself. Trust yourself a lot more. Your intuition is telling you where to go and what to do.
Right.
We just course correct because somebody else interferes with our intuition.
Yeah.
You know, but you will keep pulling yourself back on track, and you can avoid even getting off track if you just kind of say, hey, I appreciate that. You know?
Yeah.
But if you would not trade places with that person immediately, like I have a lot of different mentors. I have spiritual mentors. I have relationship mentors. If I am going to bring you into my world as like somebody I'm going to get advice from, I would trade places with you. Like in that department,
yeah, whatever.
you're murdering it. Like
Yeah.
you are the best in my entire orbit. And I've worked really hard to create like an insane Rolodex full of amazing human beings
Right.
that are phenomenal, world-class, best in that world, because I want to absorb that energy.
Right.
And I want, for me right now, Ryan, it's God, family, country, business.
Right.
Like that's my hierarchy. It wasn't always that way.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually flipped. It
Yeah.
was business, country, family, God.
Yep.
And what you realize as you mature is that God is the glue.
Yeah.
Like he's actually the glue, the spiritual connection, whatever that is for you. And it doesn't matter what religion I'm talking about your spiritual relationship. It's the glue that holds all the rest of the stuff together. Without that, everything
falls apart.
It falls apart, man.
No amount of financial success can ever fill that void.
Man, and we're so narcissistic and we're so like focused on our stuff. And there's so much ego involved. It's easy to cut that part out.
Right. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. That's why I created something called The Wealthy Way, which this podcast will be transitioning to, which I'm really excited about. And it's because for me, being an entrepreneur for a while now, I've just seen so many of them have a lot of success in business, but then they just mess up their lives everywhere else, man. And you know what I'm talking about. You know, these guys, they lose their families, they get caught up in addiction, they get caught up in just depression, feeling that void. And I'm like, guys, there's no amount of views, there's no amount of money, there's no amount of people in the, the room, there's no amount of employees and success you think you can have that will ever fill the void of all these things. And I've just found for me, my business goes way smoother when everything else is taken care of.
Yes.
Because I'm not like taking it so serious of like, this is my identity. And if I suck at this or I have a bad month, we don't get enough deals, like the world's ending. It's like, no, everything else is cool.
And when it does go to shit, your family's going to be there for you no matter what. Yeah. And if that's not rock solid, if you're not pouring into that and creating that safety, loving environment, you're failing.
100%.
Especially as a leader. In today's world, I mean, think about the morality lost in the world we live in today. Mm-hmm. We've gone so far away. We're now in an instant gratification. What's in it for me? Pay me. F you, pay me. Mindset.
Right.
And it's caused a lot of problems. Social media has caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And it's up to leaders like you, people watching this that want to be more, want to set a bigger standard, to start to think about their actions in their hierarchy of what's important. Because if you set that standard, because look, success is not a destination. It's not a race. It's not a goal. It's not an amount.
Right.
It's a operating software. Mm-hmm. It's a download. It's the way you live in the consistency of your habits.
Yeah.
And for me, it's your obligation.
Right.
And when you start operating like success is my obligation, not an option, then all of a sudden you change. Well, you can't say I'm a success, but I'm cheating on my wife. I'm a success, but I'm failing miserably spiritually.
Right.
Or I'm overweight and I'm at the beach and I got a white t-shirt on and it's wet and I got man titties.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you cannot have bad health and be super financially successful because you're going to have bad health. And one day you'll find yourself at this point where you're like, I will give all of this up to get this back.
Exactly. No, 1,000%. If you're listening to this podcast, then my guess is you're interested in real estate investing. Some of you are just starting out while others are trying to scale their business to the next level. But the problem is, with so much information out there, most people don't know which program or coach to trust. Well, I'm a bit biased, but I believe my company, Future Flipper, can help you get to the next level. We've coached thousands of students from all over the world on how to build their real estate investing business. It doesn't matter whether you want to flip, wholesale, or buy rentals. Our coaching program has everything you need to become a great investor. There are many things that we include with coaching, but to give you a few examples, you're going to get an accountability coach. These are people that have had success in their own business, and they want to make sure that you achieve success in yours. We also have all of our documents, our systems, and processes that I've used to buy hundreds of homes. You can copy and paste them directly into your own business. And we have events where you get to meet me, top-level guest speakers, and other students who are crushing it. My students do deals with each other, and I personally do deals with them too. In fact, at a recent event, I just honored over 20 people in our program that made over $1 million in the last year. So if you want to grow your real estate business, head over to futureflipper.com and apply for a call with our team. The call is completely free, and they can help point you in the right direction whether you work with us or not. So go to futureflipper.com and book your call today. For the last year, the real estate market has been on absolute fire. Prices are at all-time highs, interest rates are at all-time lows, and there is more money in the economy than ever. But with so much competition, many investors are sitting on cash, struggling to find great deals. If this sounds like you, then you need to invest with Pineda Capital. With my network and social media following, we get access to the best real estate deals all over the country. And if you're an accredited investor, you can invest with me on those deals. In fact, last year we purchased a 334-unit apartment complex in Georgia for almost $20 million. We expect it to be worth well over $30 million when it's all said and done. Our goal with each deal is to build in so much equity from the beginning that we're able to refinance our investors' cash out and own the properties together with little to no money into the deal. And the best part is, you don't have to do anything. Our team will find the deals, handle the renovations, get them leased, and eventually refinanced or sold. All you have to do is provide the capital. So if you want exclusive access to our deals before they hit the public, go to PinedaCapital.com to schedule a call. We can put your money to work today to start getting you great returns. So go to PinedaCapital.com now to get access to our deals. So for people who are watching and listening right now, obviously we're trying to tell them that, hey, money is great, but it's not going to buy you all these other things, right? For you, your career as an entrepreneur has evolved from the guy who took 9 months to figure it out to the guy who's done thousands of transactions now, to the guy who's taught thousands of students how to do real estate, right? And to now a guy who's got a lot of different businesses, right? You're just an entrepreneur at this point. So you and I were recently at Grant Cardone's event a few weeks ago. And for me, I don't know about you, but I thought it was like literally the best event I've ever been to.
Phenomenal.
I was just blown away by the caliber of people in that room, the amount of business that was being done, the ideas and things it was crazy. I didn't even know what to expect, but it was crazy. What would you say was the biggest takeaway for you, at this current point in your journey?
It's Grant Cardone's whole aura. It's think bigger, play bigger, think bigger. It's like he said something. He said, look, you got to think bigger, but you better hit your target. And when he said that, I got that feeling inside like, man, if you step up and you say, you know what, team, we're going to fill a stadium, right? What's funny is, at first, it doesn't seem real, but as you start working towards it, starts becoming real. When you hit that target, everybody on your team now believes you can do the impossible.
Right.
And the whole standard elevates,
right?
From that point forward. And it doesn't have to be fill a stadium. For you, it could be something just, outside of your comfort zone, setting that standard. And you start to normalize this evolution. And it was cool to just think about like, God, he just was so aggressive towards the biggest thing he can get himself into.
Right.
And I question myself a lot of times because my biggest fear in life is sliding into my grave full of regret. That's like, if you were to say, like, list your biggest fear, it's not snakes, it's not burning alive, it's regret.
Right.
Because I always feel like I'm out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my driver inside. I'm like, dude, we got to go now.
Yeah.
The challenge is, like I said at the beginning, for a lot of my career, I was a single family house guy. I didn't raise money. I was making a lot of money, but I wasn't good at raising it. I would raise a little, like $1 million here, a couple $100,000 here to get into a deal. I was one of the first influencers in the real estate space to build a brand. I might have been the first, biggest one, in creative real estate. I should have raised money. I should have thought bigger. I should have got into commercial faster. I should have got into multifamily faster. The same amount of energy you put into a single family house is the same amount of energy you put into an apartment building.
Yeah.
Same energy,
right.
Same amount of time goes by in your life. Massive difference on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, like my dad said, those self-limiting beliefs, real estate's for rich people.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Who do you think you are? You look like you're 15 years old. Who do you think you are to be a successful real estate person?
Right.
Well, I had that. I had limiting beliefs about commercial.
Right.
I had limiting beliefs about multifamily. And I'm so proud of you, dude. I got to give you some flowers, man, because like watching you scale your businesses, watching you start to raise capital, I see your future. So watching you do creative, groundbreaking things like, merging blockchain and NFTs and real estate and all this education stuff that you're doing to impact. You're starting to think real big. And I'm watching the transition and I'm like, dude, 5 years from now, I cannot wait to hear your story and see that evolution, because whatever you've done now, as big as it has become, is nothing compared to your next 5.
I agree. Brad Lee actually helped me learn that. And I know you're good friends with Brad. And, he was like, bro, there's no reason like you can't be a billionaire. He's like, you should be a billionaire. If you don't, it's a kind of a disappointment. And I started thinking about it and I was like, man, that's crazy that somebody would say that. I've never thought about trying to be a billionaire, right? And then you go and see Cardone, and he's a billionaire, obviously, and you see the path he took, and you see where he was telling his story 30 years ago, right? Like what he's accomplished has been in the last really like 10 years, and to see him go from, basically unknown 10 years ago to where he is today, to have raised all that money, to your point, to have started 10X and built this empire, and to see now where he's headed, it's freaking crazy. And for me anyways, just like you earlier, 20 years ago, basically, as long as you have the mentors and the people who have laid the blueprint, the path becomes very simple. And so for me, when I look at it, I'm like, okay, like there's a perfect example of what you can do if you're a social media guy known, who buys real estate, who raises money, who has education. Like he's literally laid it all out. And it's just a matter of, do I want to follow it and do it in my own way, I guess.
Yeah. And you are, and it's cool to see.
Yeah.
I don't know, the world, the right now, with the amount of technology and data and the ability to go fast, it would be a shame for you to squander this. You have so much marketing firepower, and here's the reality. People are bad with money. They suck. Like they really are bad, and you're good, and they should want to give you their money to put it to work for them.
Right.
So raising capital, when you're an expert like you, raising capital is your duty, because they suck at it and they need options.
That's exactly what Cardone said that I never thought about. He goes, guys, it's great to make content and, these people like you and stuff. He's like, but you are not helping them until they actually give you money and buy something from you. Until then, you have not given them a service. Like they're not even consumers at that point. They're just observers of what you're doing. He's like, until you actually can make them a consumer and show them what you can do and deliver and fulfill on whatever it is they've purchased from you, then, you're not really helping them. And I started thinking about that and I was like, that's so true, man. A lot of us don't want to be like super salesy and all this stuff, but he's like, it's your obligation to sell. And if you believe your products and services are that good, to make them do it.
Yeah. If you ever see anybody get trapped in any of my like sales funnels or my email copy or in my ads, I sell hard.
Right.
Like I sell real hard. And people complain, and it's normally ones that don't buy. Right. Or they complain and they still buy, and then they buy everything.
Right.
And there's a reason that they should, because financial literacy, financial education, when it clicks in your brain and you start playing the money game to win, everything changes in your life. Real estate changed my life. People are like, why are you so passionate? Why do you sell so hard? I was freaking a broke bookkeeper making $34,000 a year, thinking I was going to be a history professor or history teacher. Like imagine if that was the path. So many people go down that path. They go to college, they get a political science degree, and they have all this debt, and they don't really ever get ahead financially.
Right.
And then they come into your orbit.
Yeah.
And think about this. The average American makes $68,000 a year.
Right.
Okay. That's it. 68K. I mean, you should be freaking scared if that's what you make per year, because I guarantee at the end of every month, there's more month than money.
Right.
On average, they save $1,000 per year. COVID kind of threw it off a little bit. People got a little bit more ahead because they got all this free money and they weren't spending it and stuff. But they've already blown through that. That's now gone. But they're making $68K. They're saving $1,000 a year. By the time they hit retirement age, They might have 65, 70K saved up. Super savers have 95K.
Mm-hmm.
Forbes came out with an article a few years ago that said to comfortably retire, you need $1.8 million. There's a chart that I actually look at that shows you, it's like literally all of the numbers and then how much per month you want to make for 20 years and adjusted for inflation.
Right.
And the number actually, if you wanted to make 10 grand a month for 20 years, so you retire at 65 and you go to 85, 10 grand a month consistently like clockwork, you need $3.4 million.
That's a lot of money.
Who can make $3.4 million? 1% of America.
Yeah.
99 cannot because they don't have the intelligence or the path.
Right.
So, and we're witnessing the death of the middle class right now, dude. Like the average house in America is $355,000.
It's a lot.
In Arizona, it's $450,000.
Yeah, Vegas, it's like 400.
$400,000. Well, at a 5% mortgage on a $355,000 house, you're spending like 55% of your take-home income on just your mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And if gas goes up or you get a flat tire, like food, medical issue, like you're screwed. So nobody can get ahead. But what if I told you, and this is the shift, this is when everything changed for me, because if you would have told me at the beginning, all you got to do is make $3.4 million and you can comfortably retire at 65, I'd be like, okay, I'm kind of screwed. I've never seen them. I've never made hundreds of thousands of dollars, let alone millions.
Right.
And it's going to take me forever to do that. And how many hard workers do we know that never get ahead, but they still work really hard? Like, it's like, you can't work your way there.
Right.
But what if I told you, you don't need $3.4 million to create 10 grand a month. You just need 5 Airbnbs.
Right.
All of a sudden you're like, okay, tell me more. And each Airbnb, I just bought a house. I got it under contract. I'm closing it here. I'll ask you about the address. It's a $640,000 2-story, 5-bedroom here in Vegas. I'm going to turn it into an Airbnb. I'm taking over the mortgage at a 2.75% mortgage. I'm paying her for her equity on top. So it's worth $640,000. I'm getting it under contract for $580,000.
Right.
She owes $500,000. That $80,000. So I'm taking over the underlying $500,000 mortgage.
Right.
I'm going to make her payments of $500 a month, principal only payments for the extra $80,000 for 5 years.
Right.
Then it balloons and I got to pay her off.
Right.
But I get to keep the underlying mortgage at 2.75%. It's only been 2 years old mortgage.
Right.
So we're going to let that ride for the remaining 28 years.
Heck yeah, dude.
I'm going to turn it into an Airbnb. I'm all in at $3,500 a month.
Yep.
To her for the $500 principal only payment and the underlying mortgage. And it'll Airbnb for 10 grand a month.
Yep.
So I'll net five grand, $6 grand a month after all expenses. What if I told you getting to 10 grand was 3 of those houses, 2 of those houses?
Yeah.
All of a sudden your mindset shifts and you're like, so how much did I put down? $8,000. That's what it took for me to get into this property. So all of a sudden it's like, could I do that? Yes, you can. If you have $8,000 or you could borrow $8,000 and you know how to do creative finance, which is going to be the thing over the next, 5-7 years, scooping up these 2.75% mortgages, where else are you going to be able to do that?
Now, creative finance is going to be extremely important the next coming years, especially as rates, will we see rates again in the 2s? I don't know, man. Like, who knows? But I don't see it anytime soon.
50% of all mortgages are below 3%.
Right.
Everybody refied.
Yep.
So if you think about that, it's like, okay, how many of those can I get? If you get 3 deals that are similar, you're now creating over $10,000 a month. So all of a sudden you can comfortably retire. And you don't have to wait till 65.
Right.
If you were cool at 10 grand a month, which anybody who figures this out will just keep going.
Right.
All of a sudden it's 20, all of a sudden it's 50. Do you remember thinking, what was your initial number?
For just what I wanted to make?
Yeah, when you were first starting real estate.
Well, so here's the thing. I never had like a financial freedom number. I know a lot of people do that, but I was always a small thinker, dude. Like I was making $1,200 a month in the minor leagues. My wife went to school to be a teacher and make 40 grand. And we were like, okay, if she has 40 grand and I can just figure something out, we could make 100 grand together and that'll be great.
Yeah.
And so I just was thinking that the whole time, hey, if we can just make 100 grand over, we'll be good. And that was all I wanted to do.
Mine was $4K.
Yeah.
That's how big I was thinking. I wrote a sticky note and I put it on my cubicle when I was a bookkeeper, and I said, if I could only make $4K a month consistently as a wholesaler, it'd be my dream.
Right.
I'm living the dream. And then you hit it, and then you're like, oh, can I do 10K?
Mm-hmm.
Can I do 15? Can I do 20? Can I do 50? Would it be insane for me to believe that I can make 100K in a month?
Yep.
What about 1 million? What about 8 million? Where does it stop?
Yep.
You know, Grant actually said something funny about, you know, he said this was like at 10 in the morning, and he's like something about like somebody made $2 million or something by that point, or I forget how it went, but they were talking about how much money they made. And Grant's like, yeah, I made that this morning before I even got to work. You know, it's like dropping a quarter. I didn't even realize it.
Right.
I was like, all right.
Yep.
We got to step our money game up.
Yep. Yeah, we got to step it up.
Most people want to get rich at all costs. They make sacrifices with their family, their health, and their faith, all in the pursuit of money without even realizing it. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be that way? What if you could grow your wealth in all areas of life? Well, it's possible, and that's why I created The Wealthy Way. It's a community of people striving to grow together in all areas. And we have multiple tools for you to use that are completely free. You can get access to the Wealthy Way Planner, where you can set goals and hold yourself accountable on a daily basis. We also have our Wealth Builder Academy, which is over 4 hours of content teaching you how to manage your time, create the right goals, and all the biggest secrets I've used to grow my life, not only in my net worth, but in all aspects. Lastly, we have our Discord community where thousands of wealth builders are all over the world encouraging one another and growing together. And once again, all of this is completely free. There are no upsells, there are no hidden catches. For me, this is a passion project, and I want to build a community of like-minded people. So if you want to start living the wealthy way today, go to wealthyway.com. There you can get all the free resources like the course, planner, and Discord community. So go to wealthyway.com.
I think for sure, like thinking bigger is such a big thing I learned from Grant. And to myself, I want people to realize like not everyone starts out as a big thinker. You wanted $4,000. I was cool friggin' bumming off my wife, making $40,000 as a teacher. Like I was not this big thinker that you might see today. And even now, I'm still constantly surprised at how small I think. When you go to Grant's office and you see this, I was like, wow, there's levels to this. And the big thing that I've noticed, and for anyone watching, is it's very hard to think big being in your own bubble. You know, because you can watch Grant, you can watch me, and you're like, oh, they're doing some cool stuff, whatever. But when you actually see it firsthand, you talk to that person, you get to see their operation and like visually touch it, see it, feel it, experience it. You're like, this is real. And it's not that far away from what is possible. And that's happened for me in so many things. When you first saw that $80,000 check from your friend, you were like, whoa, this is real. When I first realized that YouTube was big and I saw these other guys who were doing it, and I was like, wow, this guy's making that much making video? This is crazy. You know, I remember talking to you about education and you were telling me what you guys were doing. I was like, wow, you can make that much teaching people and helping people. That's crazy. And then, you know, I just launched my NFT project and, you know, I see we've done millions already. I'm like, wow, you know, you can do this with NFTs. And so my point is, I personally have never really achieved anything big without first seeing it firsthand from somebody else. And the moment you finally get to meet that person, not read about them, not watch their podcast, not watch their YouTube, but to talk to Cody, to talk to me, to talk to somebody who's done it, you get a different type of belief where you're like, I get it. This is not some stuff I learned in history class. This is right here, right now.
It's like the Roger Bannister story.
Yep.
You know, it's like nobody ever broke a 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister did it. And then all of a sudden 90 other athletes did it. It's like, what happened? Belief changed, right? Yep. That's it. I love that. And I think that's important for the people watching because it's their obligation to take the football further down the field, you know, and you might be sitting there and going, I haven't even done a deal yet.
Right.
I haven't even started, or I'm barely holding on, or, you know, whatever your scenario is. But if you stay consistent long enough, you will get some momentum. You will build that network that will support you around you it takes time, man. It takes time to disconnect from your other friends. It takes time to get into other circles. Joining masterminds, I run 4 high-level masterminds. Avengers is one of my masterminds.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually meeting in Atlanta here, coming up here in September. And, we bring in the biggest celebrities. We do all this fun stuff. I lose money on the mastermind on the front end because the selling of the mastermind wasn't my goal. Putting a collection of like-minded badasses in a room to do business with each other was the goal.
Right.
And I can't even tell you, cutting a check to get in the right room is the biggest needle mover out of anything you can do in business.
Right.
Like if I wanted to, dominate in baseball, I'd hire coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to extra, like my daughter's a competitive cheerleader. She does all these privates.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably had like all these like sessions where you're by yourself.
Right.
Like learning how to hold the bat properly and all that stuff. In business, what is there?
Right.
You either hire a mentor, and by the way, there's a lot of shitty ones out there. So like that's the landmine that you got to navigate. Like, are they really doing the business or are they just selling shit?
Right.
And I feel like lately, a lot of like the whack ones are gone or
Right.
moving out.
100%.
Like I feel like they burned all their bridges, and like the guard that's there now, like I feel like I'm so proud of you guys because everybody's playing the game at a very high level.
Yep.
And I'm lucky enough to know a lot of you guys, and I'm just like, wow, this education thing has come so far.
Right.
And it's cool to see. But when you think about cutting that check to be in a room in a mastermind, highly recommend it, because through seeing other people playing the game at the next level, you're automatically exposed to a set of principles.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're exposed, you can never undo it.
Right.
And now, if you're a good entrepreneur, you're going to feel like crap until you level up.
Right.
You put the pressure on yourself.
Yep.
And that's what I think it's all about, because even Grant, he's looking up at somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you hear him talk about it. He's like, I want to be like the Blackstones and the BlackRocks.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to catch those guys now.
And there'll be a day where maybe he sells out and makes gazillions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be a new mentor in his life. And it's going to be the, how do you give it all away mentor?
Yeah.
How do you make the biggest impact mentor?
Yeah.
And
it's just that evolution of life. So, I mean, for you, you say you run all these different masterminds, and you've just built these different businesses over time. I want to ask you, we're talking about branding and marketing, everything else. And one thing I reached out to you for was marketing. I think you are world class at marketing, especially when it comes to paid ads. And I remember at one of your events, you sat down and we talked for probably like an hour of you just giving me advice on, hey, here's how you do paid traffic. Here's what you got to look out for, things that you've learned the last 10 years doing it, right? So what I've seen from you is like this evolution, right? You started out, like you said, this guy with glasses, thin, like, I don't know, maybe you can go into it more, maybe like trying to present yourself as like kind of like a nerd kind of guy, to now you're like jacked, no glasses,
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, doing your ads differently and everything. So tell me the evolution of ads and paid traffic, and for anyone watching.
So first off, if you want to build a brand, you have to make video a core competency. I don't know what you were like when you first started, but you're super smooth now, right? Like you have your bits, and like a comedian who practices a lot works out their material. And now you have these like little bits. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. You have bits around motivation, bits around failure, bits around, creative real estate, bits around, e-com, because you've worked out this dialogue, right?
Right.
With ads, the only thing that matters is the first 5 seconds, 7 seconds. Everything after that is whatever you want to do. But if you can't come up with the hook is the only thing that matters.
Right.
Right? So like, let me give you an example. I could say, in like my old ads would be my hook. I was the first to use Lambos and checks in the country. Nobody was doing it. This is before Ty Lopez and everybody. I was just like sitting in front of a Chase Bank. There's a Lamborghini and a big fat check. Hey, I'm here in front of Chase Bank. Just made a $12,937 wholesale profit. Flipped a house. Did it under 30 days. It was amazing. I started off as a broke bookkeeper, but then blah, 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 blah. Right? And so the hook was the bank, the check, the Lambo, the lifestyle, and this idea of I just made this money in under 30 days and I didn't have any risk. And I flipped the house and I didn't even own the house. Right? Okay, very straightforward hook, but using luxury lifestyle as the
marketing.
Yeah. Now, what if we switch? That hook got played out, right? So what if we switch the whole thing to, hey, real quick, pay attention. Quit buying courses. In fact, what if you never had to buy another course again? In fact, I'm just going to give you all of my courses. I'm going to give you my software. I'm going to give you everything that you need. And instead of you doing this on your own, let's do deals together. Okay, that's a hook. Right? How about this? Hey, you see this house right here behind me? Let me ask you something. How would you like to, hold on, what did I say? Hey, you see this house right behind me? How would you like to do a real estate deal like this with me? No more buying courses, no more wasting time. In fact, I'll even put up the money and let's do some deals together. That's a different hook, right? Or, hey, let me show you, what if I showed you a creative way that you can get 4 to 5 free houses and create $10,000 worth of cash flow in the next 30 days? Free houses? Okay, I'll listen. You got to work those hooks out and be playful with them. And the great testing ground is IG. Go onto IG and do some posts and see what people react to, you know? What would, and do some like market research. Once everybody makes a mistake as an entrepreneur that they want to have the product perfect or the service perfect or the thing perfect before they go to market. I do it the opposite. I get the hook perfect and I backwards engineer into what the world tells me that they want. And that shift in understanding what saved me a lot of time and wasted energy because I'm a naturally analytical person. I want the course to be perfect. I want the dialogue to be perfect. I want the scripts to be perfect, the downloads, the flashcards, the quizzes. And I would spend, in the beginning, a year putting a course together before I ever even sold it.
Yeah, I think that's a very big switch from what people do, you know, because, and it actually goes back to how I create content too. So most people, if they create a product or service, they think about the product or service, and then they say, okay, this is what I want to build, and this is my passion, this is what I want to do, and they say, how can I sell this? Whereas you're looking at, what does the world need? What are they going through? Okay, how can I build a product based on that? And the same is true for what I do with content, right? It used to be, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to talk about whatever today, right? And then we think, okay, what's a good title and thumbnail to hook them, right? But what guys like Mr. Beast do, and I've learned this from him, is they think about the title and thumbnail first. He's like, what's the most ridiculous thumbnail and title I could think of? And then he says, I'm going to go make the video based on that. And so where people get caught up in making errors is they think about the end result first of what it is they want for their end result, instead of thinking about what is it the consumer needs and what do they want to see.
This isn't the field of dreams. If you build it, they're not coming. The only thing that matters is sales and marketing. That's the thing that you got to dial in and be consistent. Like if somebody said, like, Cody, tell me some skills. I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm just getting started. I've never owned a business. Give me some skills that I should focus on. I would say number one skill, sales. You got to know persuasion, influence, and sales. Study books by like Robert Cialdini. Persuasion, anything that has to do with understanding how the psychology of people and what gets them to move forward. Read books about effective copywriting. Copywriting is selling through written word. In a world of direct response marketing or anything online, whether it's e-com or education or information or even crypto, it doesn't matter. They're selling through copy. And understanding how to be a copywriter is important. Marketing. You got to understand basic functions of marketing, like what gets somebody to pull out their credit card and actually take an action. What's their belief system shift that has to happen. And then building, or actually, before I go there, raising money, learning the art of raising money, very important skill. The art of building a personal brand, very important skill. right? Learning how to pick a platform like Instagram or TikTok and leaning in on it and mastering that platform, not trying to do them all at the same time.
Right.
Getting like how you're eventually getting really good on video.
Right.
Eventually getting really good at like creating a content day where you really hammer out all your content.
Right.
Building that content team around you and learning how to syndicate the content out. And then the most important skill out of everything that we do as entrepreneurs, especially in real estate, is the power of leverage, the skill of mastering leverage. It's everything.
Right.
I would never have multiple businesses if I didn't have great partners.
Right.
I am so limited by my own thoughts and belief system. Like I'm the guy that's like, oh, give it to me. I could do it better than everybody else.
Yeah.
That's the biggest lie we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
The best thing I ever did was get out of my own way and fire myself fast.
Right.
And that takes learning how to like motivate, build culture, scale a high-performing team, put the right people in the right seats of the bus. And as soon as I started thinking about those things, like a great book is called Scaling Up.
Yeah.
It's hard to read, but it's good for you to know that stuff.
Right.
You start hiring, training, scaling, and getting out of your own way, and all of a sudden your business will infinitely grow. If you try to control it all, you'll stay small.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Yeah. Grant also said something like that at the event of like, it's harder to be small than it is to be big. And I've realized that too. I look at all the people in my offices and all the work they're doing and revenues being generated every day. And I'm like, dude, this is way easier when I was, or this is way easier now than when I was making the calls myself, seeing the properties myself, having to do everything myself. It's crazy. Like
how you get there though, because a lot of people start off as the solopreneur. How you get there, and I highly recommend 1 day a week.
Yep.
Call it System Saturdays, where you just document one SOP, standard operating procedure.
Right.
Maybe 2 in a day if you're able to get through a couple of them. How to send an email to blast out a property.
Right.
How to talk to a seller or how to run a comp.
Right.
Whatever those SOPs are, whether you buy them and get them through taking your training or something, or you create them yourself.
Right.
By the end of a year, if you did that, you'd have 52 or 104 if you did 2 a week SOPs.
Right.
Now, hiring somebody else and putting them in that seat is way easier because they have the roadmap, they have the clarity.
Yeah.
And then what happens is now you start to challenge them to create SOPs.
Right.
And as long as you keep the culture really good, the team starts to scale. And the biggest thing I did wrong in the beginning that stunted my growth is I used to think that I was the boss, you're an employee,
right,
and we can't cross over a certain line.
Right.
This line is the boss employee line.
Right.
I got to wall off the financials.
Right.
I got to wall off the reality of how bad things really are right now. Right. I got to pretend it's all good. We're all good. Everything's good.
Right.
That's not how real business is. That's not how entrepreneurs. I mean, we're like this in the beginning.
Right.
It's very scary. When you do that, you have something called regrettable turnover.
Right.
You have people that clock in at 9 and immediately clock out for lunch and immediately clock out early to get the hell out of there. The second you break that down and you and now it's me and you and we have a real relationship and we work out together or we do fun events together or I know things about your family and things, your biggest fears, your biggest pain, your biggest, like, oh my God, I didn't even know that like my mom's going through 2 types of cancer right now.
Right.
If we talked about that a whole bunch and you related to that, we built rapport, it's a different relationship. And when I believe that you love me and that you care for me, and then something goes wrong at 10 o'clock on a Friday, and I get you send me a text and you're like, hey man, can you help me out here? And I'm like, I'm on it, dude, I got you. Much different relationship in business.
Dude, and that's what I've noticed about you, man, is just seeing, you've been around, you alluded to this earlier, but like you've been around way longer than all the new guys like me. And you basically said, dude, I love seeing guys like you and Pace and Carlos and all these guys just start to just bring this new generation. And to see you kind of as one of those mentors who's been helping all of us, go through the things you've already gone through. And like you've always been like, whatever, right? If I was ever like, Cody, I want to learn paid ads, I said, Cody, you're like, dude, just come to my office. Just tell me when you want to come to my office. I'll show you exactly what we do. I'll link you up with my guy. He can talk to you about this. And I've seen Carlos post about that. I've seen Pace post about it.
Everybody.
As
long as I believe that you're in it to win it.
Yep.
Look, I'm looking for somebody to pass the baton to.
Yeah.
It's time. It's new energy, and you guys you're doing it better than me. And I love that. And it should be that way. It shouldn't be, I'm the old guy that's been doing it for 20 years and I'm better than everybody else. It should be like, no, here's the baton, go.
Yeah, I'm going to the next stage.
Yeah, and it's good for me too, because it's part of my evolution to be now part of your success journey, as small or big as I'm privileged to be part of it. And I hope the people watching, they feel that it's their obligation to take the baton at some point. And there's somebody watching right now that's like, oh, I can't wait to meet Ryan one day. I can't wait to hang out with him. I can't wait to absorb all his knowledge. And someday he's going to be so proud of me because I'm going to be that person.
Right.
To bring it.
Right.
Bring it. Because they're not going to teach you this in school. They don't give us financial literacy. Most people don't know how to read a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement. You can't even be an entrepreneur if you can't do that.
Right.
It's boring. It's lame. Math sucks.
Yep.
Money's great though.
Right.
And you can't get the great money unless you have the foundational skills and capabilities.
Yeah.
And it's guys like you that are turning people on to think bigger, where they're like, oh, I don't need $3.4 million. I need 4 Airbnbs. Show me the path.
Boom. Much easier. And I'll tell you, the thing that I'm hearing throughout this podcast episode is just the power of mentors and getting people that are above wherever you want to be, and just doing something to bring them value. The fact that I'm able to, get with Cardone and get to see his vision and talk to his team, to be able to reach out to you, I have many other mentors too. That's only allowed me to get to where I'm at today. And the same has happened with you. The same has happened with pretty much every other successful person that we know. And I see, when you think of the 1%, those people that will get the 3.4 million, not one of them has just done it on their own. They're not freaking asking anyone what to do. They just are a lone wolf, and they have no guidance or help. They all had somebody showing them the way. And I think the other 99%, they don't have that. I think that
they're scared to pay for it too. They're scared to cut the check.
Well, they're scared for that, but I also think that they're also only wanting people that are at their level or below. They want to be the big fish. They want to be around people that are like them. They get uncomfortable either writing the big check, thinking bigger, being the little fish.
Yeah.
And man, I think if you're listening to this, you've got to just get around other higher level people.
It's the number one needle mover.
Yeah.
It's the number one needle mover.
Yep.
And like I said, once you're exposed, you can't go back.
Yep.
It forces you. But something funny happens when you're leveling up. And I've been in a lot of rooms where I'm really quiet because I'm nervous, and I'm like, God, these guys are really making like hundreds of millions of dollars. They're just playing a very big game. They're doing things that I've never even considered doing at a very high level. When you are exposed to that next level, you start to elevate your intention and your enthusiasm.
Right.
And you start to lean in on it, and you start mastering the skills and capabilities through the education and the question asking and the being in around it and the connections that they help you make. But something funny happens. As you take one step forward, you're actually going to take 3 or 4 steps back. And it's almost like you go backwards internally and you start to feel childlike again.
Right.
Because you're so far out of your comfort zone. You're like, oh, I'm making mistakes. I'm screwing up. I don't know what to do. And you were so good at that other thing you were doing. You were so comfortable there.
Yep.
But you go up, and then all of a sudden you go down, and then you springboard up, and then you stay there.
Right.
Remember that. It's part of the process. Just trust it.
Right.
Because when you trust it and it's happening for you, you realize like, oh, I can do this.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, bro, I'm thankful to have you as somebody I can talk to and lean on. I appreciate you coming out, man. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other things we do together, and I guess kudos to you too for just setting the trail and changing so many different people's lives, not only just students, but people like myself. So appreciate you, man.
Yeah. I'm going to buy some of your NFTs right now. Where do I go?
You're going to have to get them on OpenSea. They're already sold out. So,
all right. So I'm going to go to OpenSea. I'm going to search for what?
Tykes.
Tykes.
Yep.
Search for Tykes.
Yep.
I'm going to find the ones that I want.
Yep.
I got to buy how many? How many should I buy?
Well, by the time this airs, it'll have already been released. But basically, there are tiers. You can buy 1, and that's obviously the lowest tier. 5 gets you certain things, and then 20 is for the boardroom.
The big boys.
That's the big.
You want to get in the private good old boys club. You gotta go boardroom.
I mean,
all right.
That is what it is. You and I both know that.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is.
All right.
So, anyways, appreciate you coming on, dude. Guys, make sure you go follow Cody. He's on every platform, giving value, and make sure you go subscribe to his YouTube channel
at Clever Investor.
At Clever
I'm
Investor.
really only leaning in on 2 things: IG and YouTube.
Yep.
I got a lot of catch up to do to get to your level.
Dude, it's worth it, but it's never too late. It's never too late.
Mentor me, dude. Show me the way.
I'm gonna. So guys, go follow Cody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.